What's going on, Minties? The Uncanny Omar here from Near Mint Condition, and today I'm going to take an advanced look at X-Men Milestones, the XTinction Agenda, and Uncanny XMen Wolverine and Cyclops Volume 2. So, please stay tuned. Okay, the first thing we're going to look at is the XTinction Agenda. This is a classic storyline. And before we do, I'd like to say a quick thank you to David Gabriel and the fine folks at Marvel for sending me advanced copies of these books. So we have XTinction Agenda. This is part of the X-Men Milestone line. It retails for $34.99. And here it is compared to the rest of the Milestone books, the X-Men Milestone books. I believe I'm missing a couple, but I think they might be the color blue. So they're going back to the basic colors of gold and blue. But here they are. And it's an interesting thing that happened to the logo of Inferno. So I think the reason they're doing this is because when they're doing the X-Men Epic Collection, they're not going to be collecting all the parts of the crossover events. Now this is something pretty interesting. This came out as a hardcover, this one here, about 10 years ago. This retails for $49.99 and this for $34.99. This has been out of print probably for about 3 or 4 years now. But the content is the same. It's identical. Even the back covers. Like, seriously, the content is the same thing. Even the way that they mapped out the 2 stories at the beginning that take place in Genosha. So let's look in here and see what those contents are. And that is Uncanny X-Men 235 through 238. It's got artwork by Mark Silvestri and the wonderful and talented Rick Leonardi. And that introduces us to the country of Genosha and some of the characters that live there. And sets up Inferno a little bit. So, now let's look and see, yeah, right here. Then we get the talents of Jim Lee. By now, he is the monthly penciler on Uncanny X-Men, and his inker is Scott Williams. So we have Uncanny X-Men 270 to 272, and then New Mutants 95 through 97, and X-Factor 60 through 62. And that collects the XTinction Agenda. God, this brings back memories. The beautiful, wonderful pencils of Jim Lee. So what I see happening with the Epic Collections is they'll probably collect 270 to 272 and then give you blurbs as to what happened. So the way to get these is either get all the Epic Collections of New Mutants, X-Factor, whenever they decide to print them, or have these in there if you are getting Uncanny X-Men in the Epic Collection format. This is Rob Liefeld, but it's not inked by... You can always tell when Rob Liefeld inks his own stuff. This is not inked by him. I think it's Joseph Rubenstein. And here's the X-Factor issues. All the covers are included, including the second printing gold covers that they had. And here we go back to Jim Lee. God, this was my jam. I believe in the 8th grade when this crossover event happened, 7th or 8th grade, and I was freaking out because they were trapped in Genosha. One of them had died, and here's Rob Liefeld inking his own stuff with Art Thibert, who is still inking. I love seeing these names that are still around these days. And then we'll look at the extras. Yes, but really quick, it's just a crossover event. It was a summer crossover event where Cameron Hodge, who was back from the dead, he was an X-Factor villain, declares war on mutants. And a lot of them get captured, then the rest of the X-Men have to go in and save them. And you get this iconic moment of Wolverine versus Archangel. There's a kiss here. Oh, and Gambit. This is the first time Gambit was, to me, such a badass. I'm like, oh, there's more to this dude than just being a pretty boy. Oh, what a smooth cat. What a smooth cat. What the hell's wrong with me? I sound like an old man. All right, let's look at the extras. So we have the recolored covers here. And these are collections like in trade paperbacks. I always thought this was interesting that they replaced Cable from the cover here, or from this ad, with Cyclops. And I don't even know how they put that Jim Lee Cyclops in there. Obviously, they took his face from some other picture, because at the time, he had the X-Factor outfit on. And these are added panels. So when trade paperbacks originally came out, they weren't used to the spreads, the 2-page splash pages. So sometimes, like, what they do now is they put like an empty symbol or something like an X or a black page or a blank page to space those splash pages out, because they don't have any ads in trade paperbacks. So what they were doing back here is adding additional artwork. And that was in the first printing, this one back here, of XTinction Agenda. So see, like that was originally a splash page. They made it into a one page. So they decided to keep the art in here. I believe this is Mark Pacella in an issue of New Mutants 96. Here's the ad, which is so badass. Jim Lee. Cover the character designs of the Genosians and those little pin sets. And then the cover poster again, the promotional poster. And then ads for other milestones. Now this book is due out on September 25th. And this book is due out on September 18th. So keep that in mind. This is Uncanny X-Men, Cyclops, or Wolverine and Cyclops. Interesting that they decided to go that route. Volume 2. So this takes place immediately right after Volume 1, which takes place after X-Men, Uncanny X-Men Disassembled. This is the last storyline that, I don't want to say leads into House and Powers of X, the Jonathan Hickman, the Hicksman X-Men books, but it does. It's the last X-Men story, and then everything starts over again. So you have the talents of Matthew Rosenberg, who had been writing the book since issue 11 by himself, Carlos Gomez on issue 17, Carlos Villas on 18 through 19, and then Salvador La Roca coming back with a bunch of inkers in between there. Will Spertasio doing the covers, and it's Carlos Gomez, who actually reminds me a little bit of Mark Brooks in his art style. There's a funeral, not going to talk about who, or give any spoilers here, just kind of showcasing the artwork. There is a lot of returning characters from the 90s that I was not expecting to see come back, so it's pretty interesting. And Rosenberg's, honestly, Uncanny X-Men had me excited, and then there were things that he did that I was like, I don't know about that. But for the most part, it was pretty enjoyable. And now that, you know, Jonathan Hickman has taken over, I don't want people to forget about this run. And this is what I meant by characters coming back from the 90s that I didn't expect to see. But you can be surprised for yourself when you read it. But yeah, this is one of those series that might be forgotten because we have Jonathan Hickman's run. And then we had Age of X-Men during this time too. So Cyclops and Wolverine have their own band of X-Men because they believe Storm and Kitty Pryde and Nightcrawler, those characters, to be dead. But no, they were off in the Age of X-Men crossover. And there's the wonderful and beautiful Emma Frost. So all this happens before Hicksman. You don't need to read it before Hicksman if you're not an X-Men completist. But if you are an X-Men completist, you probably should. Jonathan Hickman just wipes the slate clean is what he did. So you don't need to read anything before his run. Of course, it doesn't hurt. Let's look at a couple of the little extras in the back. The book collects issues 17 through 22 and it retails for $17.99, by the way. And these are the extras, just the variant covers that they have. And there's the Age of X-Men set and Volume 1 of Wolverine and Cyclops. And that was it. That was the content of each book. Let me know in the comments down below if you're picking these up, if you're an X-Men completist such as myself, or if you're waiting for a reprint of the X-Men hardcovers or omnibuses, whatever that the XTinction Agenda will turn out to be when it gets reprinted eventually. Again, this was the Uncanny Omar. Don't forget to hit that like, subscribe button, and check us out on Redbubble where you can get our logo on t-shirts and stickers. Thank you for watching, and remember, if it's classy and cool, it must be near mint.